Hello and welcome everyone. We are really excited to be hosting this information session and participant panel for the Tropical Forest Landscapes Online Certificate Program. My name is Abby York again, and I'm the Online Program Administrator for the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative, or ELTI, at Yale University. Whether you're just learning about our certificate program or have already submitted your application, we are excited to have you here to learn more about the participant experience. Our year-long certificate program offers a unique opportunity for environmental professionals worldwide to connect with the Yale School of the Environment, to develop concrete skills, advance their careers, and explore science and solutions, tropical land management from many different perspectives. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues Gillian Bloomfield and Fredrick Addai. Gillian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Gillian Bloomfield. I'm Associate Director for Online Programs here at ELTI and excited to connect with you about the certificate program.
Thanks, Gillian. And Fred, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Hi everyone, my name is Fredrick Addai and I'm a postgraduate associate here at the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Thanks, Fred. So we have divided this information session today into 4 parts. First, we will give a brief program overview. We will then hear from our panel of participants and follow that by a brief Q&A session. And lastly, we'll finish today's webinar with some information on how to apply to the program. So with that, I think we can start our presentation. So again, we will be starting with the program overview. So the Tropical Forest Landscape Online Certificate Program is broken up into 4 key courses. Course 1 is the Fundamentals, Ecological and Social Concepts. Course 2 is the People course, Human Dimensions and Engagement. Course 3 is Strategies, Land Use Planning and Implementation. And Course 4 is the Funding course, so Financial Concepts and Tools. Throughout the duration of the program, participants will work on their capstone project, so they will be designing a conservation or restoration project. And at the end of the program, there is an optional 1-week fields course, Conservation and Restoration in Practice, which will take place in one of ELTI's training landscapes. So this program is a high-touch online program on managing tropical forest landscapes. As I mentioned, this is a 10-month program. We do anticipate this being part-time with about 6 or so hours of work per week, and it is conducted in the English language. Who is this program for? So we do see a really wide variety of participants. We have seen professionals from governments, private industries, and NGOs working on project design and landscape management. We have had staff members from foundations, businesses, and aid agencies seeking to fund and promote effective programs. We see academics, lecturers, graduate students, and even recent graduates who are looking to supplement knowledge. And we have landowners, farmers, ranchers, or other community organizers who are looking to enhance management within their communities. Really, though, we say that this program is designed for anyone interested in learning to design, implement, and monitor conservation or restoration initiatives. So you can see a little bit more of the breakdown of our participants coming from many different sectors, including the private industry, nonprofit, government, and academia. Overall, we have had just over 400 participants representing 280 different organizations. So in a given week, you anticipate to work on several different things, starting with the content. We use an online learning platform called Canvas, where you can access videos, readings, interactive presentations, and case studies. There is then the opportunity for interaction and feedback. This comes in the form of live sessions, discussion boards, peer-to-peer exchange, and expert review on your coursework. And lastly comes the application. So this is self-reflections, guided exercises, and personal capstone projects. As I mentioned, there's also the optional field course component of the program. So this takes place after the certificate program. We have a few examples here on the left from the Brazil field course last year. In the middle, we have participants meeting with some local government members in the Philippines in 2020. And on the right is a planting exercise done by field course participants in Panama in 2023. Moving into some of the benefits of the program, we have had 97% of a survey of 240 individuals report that they are extremely or very satisfied with their experience in the program. And another 94% of graduates said that they have met their goals for enrolling extremely or very well. Overall, we hear that participants have gained a holistic perspective and practical skills in the program. They had received support and guidance along the way, and they have built skills through the Applied Capstone Project. So what happens after the program? We have had participants put what they learned into action in many different ways. We've seen them plan initiatives at the landscape level, implement new practices, develop a comprehensive monitoring framework, create funding proposals, think more holistically and critically about conservation, develop participatory approaches to stakeholder engagement, and recognize bias and critical issues of social justice better. About 93% of our program graduates said that they have already made changes to land management practices or approaches. I wanted to share too a quote from Rudolph, a participant in 2023. He shared that the knowledge and skills I acquired from the certificate program make me confident and well-equipped to undertake my role as a restoration practitioner. I received amazing mentorship, established incredible new networks, and deepened my understanding of topics highly relevant to my work to manage the restoration of 10,000 hectares of degraded landscape in Tana Delta, Kenya. In addition to seeing how they put what they learned into action, we also have past participants continue their connections beyond the program. One of the main ways we see this is through the field course. Again, this takes place after the program, so it's a great way to meet in person. And then we have other opportunities, including the TFL virtual reunion, ELTI's online networking platform, the ELTI reception at the ISTF conference on Yale's campus, working with the TFL Alumni Committee, presenting during an ELTI webinar series, or participating in live sessions for the certificate program, partnering with YSE master's students in Dr. Guerin's seminar, and organizing meetups at international conferences, like the example on the right here from COP16. So now to get into some more of the logistics, tuition for the program is $7,500 US. This includes 4 8-week online courses in the 10-month capstone project, unlimited access to all online course materials, support from mentors throughout the program, face-to-face online interaction with experts, and personalized expert advice on your coursework. For the optional field component, there is additional tuition, which is $2,500 US for the 2025 field course. This includes a 1-week immersion experience in the tropics, which includes in-country ground transportation, food, lodging, course materials, the instructors, and site visits for the duration of the course. For both components of the program, there are scholarships available. So starting out here with our partial scholarships, these are available on a competitive basis. They range from 25 to 75% off of the tuition fee. You need to complete the scholarship application within the main program application. There is a short essay for each award type: leadership and impact, career development, and general award. You are able to apply for awards within multiple categories, but you will only be awarded one of them. And as a note, any admission decisions are independent of scholarship requests. The other scholarship we are able to offer is the 3 Cairns Fellowship. This is fully sponsored online tuition for individuals working on climate solutions in the Global South. In order to be eligible for this award, you would need to have primary citizenship from a country within the Global South, have professional or academic experience relevant to climate solutions, and actively be working on climate solution implementation. Again, in order to apply to this, you need to fill out the fellowship application within the main program application, and any admission decisions made are made independent of fellowship requests. So now, with our brief program overview, we will be moving into our participant panel. So today we have with us Angie Hsu, Japheth Orieny, and Lilly Briggs. So Angie and Japheth are from our 2022-23 cohort, and Lilly Briggs is a current participant. So now I'd like to turn it over to them to learn a little bit more about their background, including their work and reasons for enrolling in the certificate program. Angie, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Angie. So I'm currently in the 3rd year of my PhD thesis, and my thesis is largely documenting the history of colonialism and its impact on deforestation in Southeast Asia and South Asia, as well as recent conservation and restoration approach that utilizes decolonial approaches. And the main reason that I chose is to join this program is because my background is mainly, say, in post-colonial and social science, that area, but I do not have the background, say, in botany or restoration science. And this program has been particularly helpful for me in sort of understanding how exactly do people manage landscape, and especially the course I think was with Dr. Montanini on the strategies that was particularly helpful and for me to draft the species and the research that I had to document in the Philippines and Indonesia and then India. So that's my background and the reasons. All right, should I pass it to someone else?
That's great. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, we can turn it over to Japheth now for his introduction.
Thank you, Abby. Hello, everyone. My name is Japheth Orieny from Nairobi, Kenya. No background in community development, but joining the ELTI program gave me this access to information, to experience, and to a huge experts, a number of experts who gave me insights into restoration, forestry, and in particular right now or after the program, we've co-founded an NGO called Mazingira Jamii Africa, where I am the partnership lead and also the coordinator. We are looking at restoring the Lake Victoria Basin, which is really degraded, and the river ecosystems there are really, really degraded. So we're working on that, but it has been a really tough experience because for joining the program, the thing that attracted me most was stakeholder engagement, especially stakeholder heterogeneity, which is a major issue, trying to bring all stakeholders on board. Also going to the Philippines, we were with Angie there, gave me these insights into how communities over there have really bought into the projects and they have that sense of ownership, and we're trying to replicate that here in Kenya. It's been over a year, but we are still working towards it. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we have our current TFL participant, Lilly Briggs. Lilly, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Canadian, but I'm based here in the southwest of Costa Rica. And in 2020, I founded and direct a nonprofit organization dedicated to environmental education called Finca Canteros Environmental Association. And my background, my PhD was in environmental education, and it's been my passion my whole life. And I knew very little about actual restoration ecology and doing, tree planting and tree growing and all of that on the ground before moving to Costa Rica. And so I've sort of been learning over the years, kind of, by trial and error, by the seat of my pants, all that. And I like to say that I was interested in doing this course because it gave me an opportunity to actually learn about restoration ecology and tropical forest landscapes in a more structured approach, and to bring in a lot more of the natural science component into my knowledge base. And also it served as a really great space to allow me to kind of combine and connect dots that I don't necessarily have the time to do when I'm in the rush of managing the organization. So it's allowed me to bring together, the human dimensions knowledge and the ecological knowledge, and through the assignments, really kind of coalesce that into my bigger picture thinking about the organization. So thank you so much for the invitation to be here.
Yeah, great. Thank you all. So now at this point, I think we can move into our panel. So Gillian and I have a few questions for each of our panelists. As a reminder, we will have some time after we hear from them to take questions from the audience. So I encourage you to submit any questions you may have. And that can be either for our panelists or for program mentors if you have questions about the application itself. But please use the Q&A feature in the bottom of your webinar window to submit those questions. So I will pass it over now to Gillian to kick off our panel with one of our first questions.
Great. Thank you, Abby. And so nice to see Angie and Japheth again after a little bit since you all finished the program. And then Lilly, of course, we see each other somewhat regularly in the program right now. So thank you so much for being here. So my first question is for Angie. So Angie, a few months back, you visited a fellow TFL participant's capstone project site And I thought it was so interesting how you connected with fellow participants, especially who were on the field optional field course with you. Could you talk a little bit about how did that trip come together? How did you connect with those participants, and what were some of your takeaways from that visit?
So give me a sec. So a bit of a background.
Yeah.
Me and Arnie we were in the same cohort, and we went on the trip to the Philippines to learn rainforestation, which is a forest restoration strategy that utilized indigenous tree species, and that was pretty novel to me at the time. Because much of my study was based on the fact that how colonialism basically remove a lot of native plants and replace them with plantations. So when we got it to the landscape, we saw the whole hill covered by coconut plantations. And of course, that was pretty bad for the landscape itself, because when the typhoon came and there were just massive landslide that led to displacement of local people. I mean, that was a big starting point of my connection with the LT group. Just to think during my thesis, to think about what we can do to facilitate a return of people, facilitate a return of indigenous tree species that will stabilize the soil, and also there's this broken link between people and the landscape as well, that we come to think of it in terms of more of exploitative or extractive practices, and that is kind of something I would hope to challenge in my thesis. And I mean, that is the core of our discussion with all the LT participants. And I connect with Feroz Ahmad, who was also in that Philippine trip. And I think we really connect quite well because he's working in northeastern India. And for those who knows of the history of northeastern India, it's also the place that has been to bring through a lot of trauma of colonial exploitation. It was one of the first places where the British India Company found oil in the landscape, and they developed tea plantations. I think it's because of these connections I sort of built a really deep connection with the participant in the LT cohort. And so I stayed in touch with Feroz. He would share ideas about the experiment that he's doing on the ground after the field course in the Philippines. And we're sort of in the group chat, and we continue to follow up on the work that they do. So and also I think we've been talking about visiting him for a while, and it finally materialized in this February, when me and Tom, who is another participant, who's working in India now. So we just schedule among ourselves to arrange a trip and to finally visit Feroz and see his site and learn from his practice working with the indigenous Kabi. It's the Kabi people of the Kabi Hills that's in Kaziranga. So the main takeaway on that trip is that they're so the main takeaway from it is that we focus on community-based, and we emphasize putting communities, their need and their what they think what's best for their landscape first, instead of taking a more colonial practice that dictate what they should do. We ask consultation with community first. And I think I see the similarity in the case in Philippines as well as in India. All right.
Thanks, Angie.
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's so nice to hear about it and share, because the point of today is to focus on the networking and community building aspect of the program. And our goal for setting up this program is is not only to help present information from experts around the world, but also to cultivate this connection between you all as participants from all over the world. And so, Angie, you and your colleagues have been so impressive with how you have really taken advantage of that network and continued to cultivate those relationships even after the program, and go to this site in India, but also some other things that you've been up to as well, which we'll hear about a little later. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll pass it to Abby now for the next question.
Thanks, Gillian. So this next question is for Japheth, and honestly, similar to what Gillian was saying, on a very similar vein, you've certainly taken advantage of collaborating with some folks that you've met in the program. So we wanted to learn a little bit more about your experience with that and establishing the organization since your time in the program. So if you could share a little bit with us what that collaboration with John and I believe Peter has looked like, and how you navigated connecting with peers virtually, and what, I guess, really just what that process has looked like.
Thank you, Abby. I'll start first by thanking the ELTI program for inviting me. I missed that when I was introducing myself. Joining the ELTI program, I knew Peter before we joined the program because we applied at the same time, and we shared notes on how we should apply because we're doing the same projects. But now joining the program, there are these amazing people from around the world, people I've never met before. But the way the program is set, it was so easy to connect because there was the intro session or intro period on the Canva platform, which gives you access to everybody. Like, you don't need anybody's contact. Then from there, you can link up really easily. Then also there's those weekly reflections where so much information on a number of topics, depending on the questions asked, that you can engage in. Then if you find that there's somebody or there's a topic there that you relate on, you can just link up real quickly. After that, there were meetings like this when we started, and those ones also gave us an opportunity to actually see people when they are introducing themselves and to share which countries they're coming from. And that's how we met John. And also, I'm forgetting the guy from Nature Kenya, from the one who has a project in Tana River Delta. It was
Rudolph.
Yeah, Rodolph. So I met these Kenyans, and we were like, we are both Kenyans here. John is doing some amazing work in the US at that time. We were like, we should do something together. That's how we started we worked on our capstone project together. But the connection went beyond that because all the participants or everyone that, in the program was easily accessible, and we had these communication platforms that Gillian set up that it was so easy to engage in. Then going now to the Philippines field course. Philippines field course was the moment of truth when we met with John, because now we were there on the ground. Peter didn't make it, we were there with John, but there were also these over, I think, 15 to 20 other participants. And I go to hear from people like Ahmed, people like Jan Krebich, who are doing projects on water, let's say in Australia, restoration in India, and it gave us a little bit of an insight or idea on how we should approach this project instead of doing as a one-time project and just going and planting trees, then running away and posting pictures. Well, like, we should do something long-term. And that's how, or from that experience, we go to engage with the professors from Visayas State University, which is, I think, is an amazing partnership by Yale University. They gave us this experience, and it's not just in classrooms or in lectures. They took us to the community where the community members were sharing how they are benefiting from the capstone project, or no, from the projects they're doing with the university and the development partners there. Everybody benefits one way or the other. And I think I agree with Angie there, the way we look at how the post-colonial conservation or restoration approaches were taken, and how the community-based approach and community-centered solution should look like. Coming back to Kenya, we're like, there's something we can do, because there were 3 species in Philippines that they're indigenous, but they benefit from them when they harvest or when they sell them for perfumes. And here in Kenya, we have a lot of such trees, or even others that can provide similar sources of livelihood sources of income and livelihood benefits, but we never look at it that way. And that is why communities always tend to run away from restoration. So that is how the collaboration was, or how we came to connect. But I think my collaboration with other participants also came together, or I got to engage with people during the COP28 conferences or the COP conferences, where YAC always organizes these receptions. And it was amazing also to meet other past ELTI participants. Then finally, when we wanted to now implement the project, we realized that the stakeholders did not really align with what we were trying to say. It's like we were imposing ideas on them. So we started to work on stakeholder engagement, which we did last year, together with the master's students from Yale, and they really, really helped us to pinpoint a number of issues that we would like to streamline in our work, from youth engagement, knowledge sharing, knowledge co-creation, and also looking at a lot of case studies from across the world, China, Rwanda. This gives us insights into how we should do things, and we're trying to incorporate this right now as I speak. We're working on a tree planting program, our project with the Kenya Commercial Bank here in Kenya, and faith-based organizations together with John. Bulimo did left because he had work and he was really busy. But we are with John and others, and we're trying to see how we can bring faith actors into restoration, because they have this huge network and we want to tap into that. Yeah, so it has been a really amazing experience, and we have a huge gap between me and John. I only have a bachelor's degree. John has PhDs and 2 MBAs, but when we talk, we always talk like equals. So that respect, I think, came across through this program. Thank you.
That's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I don't think I had quite realized how many items in our list of how participants are staying engaged that you really are checking off with all the collaborations that you've been a part of. I do really appreciate you sharing too your experience during orientation and with the weekly reflections. We really like to have opportunities for participants engage outside of the live session. So I'm glad that you got a lot out of those opportunities too. So thank you so much for sharing. Gillian, back over to you now for your next question.
Great. So Lilly, you, in line with this kind of meeting and gathering together, you recently traveled to Panama and met with ELTI's Global Training Landscapes Manager, Jacob Slessler, and planned your own experience to visit the Panama training landscape. Could you talk a little bit about that and some of your takeaways from that, and how you've implemented elements of those connections, but also even just like the knowledge gained for your capstone project?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question because due to family and work commitments, I'm not able to participate in the field course that is an optional component of the overall online certificate program. But when I heard Jake's guest lecture in one of the strategies classes, and I saw where he is based, it's relatively close. And by close, I mean an 8-hour drive, but still closer than having to get on a plane and fly somewhere with young kids. So we were able to organize a trip down there. And when I reached out to Jake, he was really awesome about, inviting me to come in line with one of his times scheduled to be at the training landscape. And so it was just really great to be able to create this kind of not impromptu, but a different field course, my own sort of mini field course by reaching out to Jake. And even though I was saying to Abby, it was a very short visit, we really only had maybe like 10 or 12 hours with Jake because we had to pack it all into one day in the end. We got in a lot. We visited the Yale training landscape. We visited some model farms with a focus on agroforestry and silvopastoral systems. I should have led with that for those of you that are new to this, because that was really the focus of the visit or at least for me, I'm trying to immerse myself in the themes of agroforestry and silvopastoral systems, since again, this is an area I had zero knowledge about going into the Yale this year-long program. And we want to expand our work in restoration to include agroforestry and silvopastoral systems, because as part of the spirit of forest landscape restoration, which incorporates human well-being. As much as, you know, the active restoration that we're doing is focused on human well-being and engaging the community and creating environmental education experiences around these activities. And for me, to be perfectly honest, I never saw myself as getting engaged in the agricultural side of things because, first of all, that's not something I know anything about. And second of all, for me, it was really all about like get more trees in the ground, create more tree cover, more and more and more. And through this course, it really opened my eyes to how important it is to, and how possible it is to blend creating more tree cover with agriculture, and then stepping back and having the time to reflect through the classes and the assignments in this course, thinking about this context that I'm working in. You know, cattle ranching and agriculture are huge, you know, economic activities and also huge drivers of deforestation. So I decided I wanted to expand the work of our organization to incorporate these themes, and I'm inspired by what Yale does to, you know, maybe create kind of a similar training landscape here. So to be able to go down and meet with Jake and tour some sites and really see on the ground and get a guided tour of, you know, how this works in reality. You know, his lecture was very helpful, but of course, seeing things in person, having a chance to talk with the person is, you know, amazing. And we've already started implementing some of the things we observed in person, such as planting a type of a plant that is really good for cattle, but also is good for the soil. So we've already undertaken the task of eliminating some of the grass that is typically planted in this area for feeding cattle, and are in the process of, well, we're going to plant this, it's called the golden button plant, and we haven't done it yet because we kind of hit a snag with figuring out how to remove the really, you know, pernicious pasture grass to plant this better plant. And so I texted Jake and said, you know, do you have any suggestions how we could do this without using chemical fertilizers? Because the rancher we're working with was suggesting the chemical fertilizers, and I was hoping to veer away from that. So we've already been able to, you know, move forward in applying what we learned, and to have this connection with Jake now and the open lines of communication where if I have a question, I can shoot him a WhatsApp message, and he's been really helpful in responding and giving a few different alternate strategies. And I see going forward, continuing to bug Jake with some questions. And he said, "You're not bugging me. It's great to have these questions. Feel free to reach out anytime." And just that alone is really fantastic. And knowing that, you know, again, if we wanted to go back and do another visit and learn more, I feel like that option would be open. And just the resources that you know, were provided in the course, the sort of theoretical resources, the lectures, the articles, the papers, all that, with the tangible in-person experience has just allowed me to think about agroforestry and silvopastoral systems in a way that I wasn't able to before. So that has been just overall a really great experience and has fulfilled one of my initial goals for enrolling in this course.
Thank you so much, Lily. And yeah, the kind of in line with the main point of being here today, we really do want to have these connections be, you know, the experts are really the reason why the faculty or the LT team members are interested in giving lectures is because they really want to see the insights they have to share be applied in different contexts. So in a lot of cases, they're really happy for you to connect and say, look, I'm ready to apply what I'm learning, but have these questions or need additional guidance. So that's wonderful. And just overall, kind of the message of this is that throughout this experience, we want it to be, you know, that each individual is, you know, valued part of building a community. And so that is something that we've built in these opportunities for you all to connect, but it really also depends on you all and putting that time and effort and engagement in, even balancing with your personal and professional commitments. So the fact that you, Lily, and Japheth and Angie, and, you know, many others, this is just 3 of our 400 participants over the 6 years of the program. But the fact that you've been putting in that effort in the engagement, it's really great to see, and great to see how it's affected your work. So back to you, Abby.
All right. So this next question is actually going to be to all of our panelists to respond to. We can start with Lily, then go to Japheth, and Angie can go as well. We want to learn a little bit more if you want to share a highlight of a specific person you met during the course, whether a participant, a faculty member, a program mentor, something, and how they specifically have impacted your work. I recognize that there may be some overlap with your previous answers, but feel free to expand on that. Lily, we'll start with you.
Sure. So yeah, as you just said, obviously going to meet Jake in person, he's one of the few the only in the course that I've been able to meet in person because all of it's been online. But on that note, I kind of deviate a little from the question, but we'll link it by saying that even though this has been online, the connections I've made with you as and Gillian and Fred as the the facilitators and all the course instructors, even though it's been online, there's still been an opportunity for connection and chatting in the few minutes before the weekly live sessions begin, or if I've reached out by email to any of you, you've always been really responsive. So I'm struggling to think of like one person in particular because honestly, the whole team has just been so supportive of, responding to questions in a really timely way, encouraging alternatives to ideas or questions that I have. For example, I asked Gillian a while ago about the possibility of, how do you become a training landscape in the same way that there's that landscape in Panama and other countries. And Gillian was willing to jump on a call with me to talk through, kind of how that gets set up and that it might not be realistic for my context, but here are some other alternatives. Like maybe I could put together a short presentation about my work to share in future, certificate program cohorts, or we could you could network with others in your cohort in this way, and then there's the new app that allows you to network. So I just love how everyone involved in this course has been really just communicative and wants to try to support each person in the cohort as much as possible in their own sort of customized way. Even though it is a pretty big group and it is online, it still has felt like there's been a high personal touch.
Great, thanks, Lily. Japheth, over to you now.
I thank you, Abby, and I think my response is almost similar to Lily's because even from the beginning, like from the application period, I was always bombarding Gillian with a lot of questions. And believe me, I can ask a lot of questions. And she was always available. I was like, does she even sleep? I sent an email, she responded immediately. I even take sometimes 2 days to respond. I'm like, okay, it kind of helped me improve my work ethic that way. Also interacting with other facilitators and lecturers in the program, like Dr. Eva Garen and her lectures on conservation politics, something on politics. So it was really
political
important.
ecology.
Yeah, political ecology. It was really impactful in my journey because it made me see this side of things where we always overlook, even those in the NGO space, the role of political landscapes in conservation and restoration. And most people, when they're going to do restoration projects, we always assume that these people don't exist. We are just going to work with the community, but they are part of the community, and if there's no political goodwill, the project will not even go far. So that really gave us, or personally gave me a lot of information on how to navigate this. It's still a landscape that I have to navigate because whatever I learned in the program, I have to kind of adopt it to fit the Kenyan context. Also, there's Dr. David Naidel. We met mostly in person in Philippines, and that gave me a lot of time to talk to him in person. But there were also those lectures he was always giving in the program online. So meeting him in person, it connected us to people at Sifoikraf here in Kenya, which has been a good experience because I actually got to learn that Kenya can support a lot of fruit trees, which each species can produce fruit trees every month. So we don't have to wait for the long period of rains or the short period of rains. So that was also impactful in how we are building our partnership and our networks in Kenya. Finally, going to Philippines, I know they are not part of the ELTI facilitators or mentors, but what Dr. Malito Balde and the other people from Visayas taught us or introduced us to on how they're doing the work there, how their work has taken over 30 years to actually be seen, taught me patience. Like, this is not something that I will see results in 5 years, in 2 years. I have to be patient. I have to invest my time. And also, I think the is a rich man's business because it's really capital intensive. And finally, I know I already said finally, there was a facilitator that gave me, or during the lectures, she talked about the role of women in community, and she was talking about, I think, women in Afghanistan. And most of the time we look at women as victims, as vulnerable, but she asked us a very simple question, that if you look at women in the community, even in our community in Kenya, before a man goes to buy a cow, they have to ask the wife sometimes. And she shared a case study that she did in Afghanistan, and how the women there impact decision at the household level. Yes, out there men look like they're all these powerful, but when they come to the house, they have to talk to their women, to their wives. So I think that really provided us with some insights. If you are going to the community these days, we engage the women equally, just as we talk to the men, so that they both have access to the same information. And if they go back to their households or their houses, they can engage in these conversations from a point of knowledge and all that. That has really shaped my thinking. And also looking at trees or tree growing, I got I got interested in systems thinking, and I'm still learning. It's a process, but now I can look at things from a bigger a larger perspective. I can look at things from a English is tough here, so I'll just skip it. But I can look at things from a bird eye point of view. Thank
Yeah,
you.
a broader perspective, I guess. Thank you so much for sharing. Angie, now if you'd like to respond to the same question, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I guess like one of the professors who had a huge influence on me would be Professor Amity Doolittle, who specialized in climate justice, land dispossession, colonial history in Southeast Asia, land tenure, indigenous community rights. I mean, because her work is pretty much in alignment with the overarching argument that I was trying to make. But then she's also challenged me to think about, I mean, before starting writing my thesis and joining the course, I obviously just thought of climate justice as one type of justice. But obviously, when I took the course, there's many different types of justice. It's procedural justice, distributive justice, and recognition justice. And I mean, all of these different aspects has to be tackled quite differently when you're engaging with communities. So that different lenses of justice sort of feed in then into writing my thesis, as well as making the argument for community. So right now I'm collaborating with the NGO Health and Harmony and Osri, collaborating with them on delivering a conference presentation at natural-based climate solutions in Southeast Asia, sort of exploring what would be the best policies and what can we learn from each different case studies, and that would then inform policies going ahead. So what I've learned from that case studies, and I guess like Professor Amity Doolittle's lens is particularly useful here, is that you will have to first recognize that indigenous people, their wisdom and their knowledge is quite crucial for restoring the landscape that they have the best knowledge of, and they should always be consulted as experts of the landscape. So that's this is considered recognition, and as procedural justice. You involve them in decision making because they are the best people to advocate for what they want in the landscape. And then, and in many of the sort of carbon offset, although not all of them are like that, but a few of them can be a bit exploitative in that it excludes them from the decision making process, and they do not distribute the benefits of the projects with the communities. And in my analyses and the argument that I made to the larger conservation and restoration communities, that because I know of these different ways of analyzing things, and I look at project that does it well, and I discover like the commonality amongst these projects is that it really respected indigenous perspectives and include them in decision making, as well as the final distributive, like they receive the benefits of the project. And these are the cases where the people are most willing to engage and they're willing to do this kind of work sustainably. So the whole argument is sort of indebted intellectually to some of the professors at Yale, as well as Dr. David Nadal as well, who's introduced me the work of Health and Harmony and Osri, which is quite a holistic approach to understanding how you couldn't really deal with a problem from a very siloed perspective, but you try to look at them more holistically, that the health and the landscape and the people, they're all interconnected whole, that you couldn't really just deal with the just deal with the finance, or just deal with the landscape, or just deal with the people. You have to look at them holistically. Okay, that's my summary.
Thank you so much, Angie. It's really fascinating. You each kind of touched on a different component of collaboration in the program. So whether you were learning from the internet, for the Yale-based faculty members, other guest experts, or the peers who are, experts in their own right too, it's really fascinating to hear that you all kind of got something different out of those collaborations. At this point, I think we'd like to move into some of the Q&A portion. We've received a few questions from some of our attendees today. So I'll start with a question actually directed, I'll have Gillian answer this question regarding the capstone project. It is something that we get asked very often, so I wouldn't be surprised if a few more have the same question. But someone was asking if you need to have a 100% clear idea of your capstone project before you apply to the program. So Gillian, if you could respond to that.
Sure. And then I can also turn it over to the panel because they did the capstone project.
Yes.
We really want you to have an idea of a landscape that you are interested in directing as part of your project, the project too, because every step of the way throughout the 10 months of the program, we're constantly going to be asking you, well, how does what the theoretical concepts relate to a real place? And that helps you whether it's a real place that you work on as part of your day-to-day work, or if it's a real place that you're interested in, where you're learning how you relate the concepts to a real place as an example, to then do that, to use those skills in your future, even if it's not for that specific place. So having a sense that I want to focus my capstone on the communities outside in the Lake Victoria Basin, that is like the amount of detail you might need at the beginning, versus what we don't want is you to say, I want to plant these trees on these hectares with this methodology yet. We'll get to that. Or when people come in with that much detail, we say, okay, well, wait a minute. Let's wait. Now let's evaluate the ecological and the social context of the area. Let's talk about the stakeholders, the balance of power, the balance of motivation, the influences, and then we'll talk about the different land use strategies that might be relevant. And then how do you fund them? And that relates to, I guess, one of the other questions was how much does the capstone project learn about funding with carbon credits? And I put in the chat, but I'll just say also out loud, that is one funding source that will be addressed in the funding course, and for which it might be one funding source that you decide is relevant to your capstone project. But the whole program is much more comprehensive than that. And so I would recommend you take a look through the curriculum and see kind of the different themes and know that those are themes we're going to address. You don't have to come into the program knowing everything about your capstone project. Anything anyone from the panel wants to share about that and how much you knew about your project in advance? Looks like Lily is raising her hand.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in because I actually remember when I participated in this type of information session, I guess a year ago, a little over a year ago, somebody, I don't know if it was one of the panelists or one of the two of you or three of you, that said it's in fact better not to come in with like too much of a preconceived like concrete notion, because the whole idea is to come in very open to what you might be learning and taking in all kinds of new information. And so I remember hearing that, and it turned out to be true in my case, because I heard that and thought, yes, but I'm very clear about what I think I want to do because I'm already, working on the ground and I have projects underway through my organization. And so even though in the end, the capstone project I'm doing is related to the general theme that I came in with, which is I'm working a lot with women through a program that we have specifically to connect and engage women in learning about restoration and bolstering women's empowerment and leadership roles in the community. Over time, learning about different strategies, particularly the agroforestry silvopastoral element of forest landscape restoration. In the end, I did pivot in terms of my original capstone project idea to incorporate all of that, which is not something that I entered the program thinking that I would be doing. So I just remember the wise words from the panelists for this type of panel last year, and now in combination with my own lived experience, I don't think like you were saying, Gillian, you don't have to know what you're doing. And in fact, if you come in with an open mind about what you want to do and take all the information from this course, I think you come out with a richer experience.
Thanks, Lily. We have a few other questions. We're almost out of time, so I might combine them together. And this relates to some of what Angie and Japheth were also talking about. So afterwards, feel free if you have anything to add. So two questions. Anna Claudia says, as an anthropologist, my main focus is to learn with the cultures I work instead of presenting a solution beforehand. With this, my question is, how does the program help students to learn with the indigenous communities of the tropical lands, and how has it helped them work together? And then Jessie says, despite living in a digitally connected world, how effective can a conservation advocate be in a remote work environment as opposed to being locally based in their field of conservation? Can remote work be effective with local partners who are based in the field? So these are great questions. I'll shed some of my thoughts, but then I especially want to hear from Angie and Japheth or anyone else, Lily, about this. So I would say a main focus of the program is a place-based approach to conservation and restoration. Even though the program is designed for people all over the world and you're online learners, a big focus is that to do effective management, it needs to be in tandem with the local realities, with the people, with the ecological conditions, with the different social factors, the economic drivers, all of that, and be very place-based. And we'll talk in the fundamentals course all about what we mean by place-based in more detail. There are multiple lectures on that. So that is the value that we bring to the program, and it's why we have the capstone project. So some people are very connected to their capstone project, other people are less connected, but they experience this aspect of relating things to a real place because everything is so place in context specific. And so as you go throughout this program, as you work on the capstone, if you, like Anna Claudia, if you have access to cultures and indigenous communities that are part of the work that you're doing, we encourage you to do the exercises either in collaboration with them. You'll get the assignments weeks before they're due. We've had participants who are able to actually lead workshops or discussions and really root their exercises in collaboration with local groups. Or if that's not possible in the time frame of the program, to recognize that the work you do in the program is just an initial aspect of trying to analyze a specific area and relate the content to that area. And then we've had people who finish the program and then effectively what they call ground truth the project with the communities, have something for them to respond to and to add to without going in and saying, this is my solution for your area. And so there's different ways people do that. And then there are people who do the program based in temperate areas who then partner with either other fellow participants to do the capstone who are in the tropics, or they partner with an organization where they're based in Connecticut or somewhere else in Europe, and they have access to communicate with a group on the ground enough to do the exercises and relate the capstone project to that area. So those are just some thoughts to share on your questions, but I see I'm pinged to that we're 2 minutes away, so actually we'll probably close in just a second. So if you all want to discuss any of this more with myself or with any of the panelists, we're happy to have a one-on-one call or address things via email. And Fred or Abby will put the email address in the chat for you all to reach out to us, which is also tropicalcertificate@yale.edu.
Yeah, and I will actually, a little bit ahead of me there, but I'll also share with you in the chat the link to our coffee chat. So this is our final coffee chat of this admission cycle. It'll be this Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. So feel free to come there. Gillian, myself will be there. So we're really more than happy to chat a little bit more about that. So at this point, like Gillian said, we have just about run out of time. So I just want to share with you really quickly a couple of the tips on how to apply. We do really hope you enjoyed hearing from our panelists today. So again, whether you're newer to the program or have already applied, we hope you enjoyed this session. So as a reminder, now going through on the application process, applications have been open since February 3rd. If you already applied, you should be getting your decision on April 25th. If you apply by the April 28th deadline, you'll receive your admission decision by May 9th. The deadline to enroll is May 16th. The first tuition payment is due May 30th, and the program will begin with a 2-week orientation on July 21st. So please visit environment.yale.edu/certificates/tropical/admissions. One of our team members will put that in the chat for you. But please visit there to review the application requirements in detail and apply by the April 28th deadline. Before you start your application, we encourage you to review the program dates, the curriculum and program details, the application requirements, as well as the technical requirements of participating in the program. To apply, you do have to submit your online application form, a resume, a personal statement, and 2 short response statements, a scanned or electronic transcript, and a professional reference. In addition to those required materials, you can also submit a documentation of additional coursework or official TOEFL or IELTS test score reports if you feel that would be supplemental to your application. A few things to keep in mind. We do encourage you to review the requirements and begin gathering materials as soon as you can. You should also reach out to your professional reference ahead of time so they can submit the reference in a timely fashion. Pay close attention to the essay requirements and be personal and specific when answering the prompts. And lastly, as Gillian mentioned, please reach out to us at tropicalcertificate@yale.edu if you have any questions or technical issues as you are going through the application. Again, we hope to see many of you at our coffee chat this Friday. We have our website and email, which are both in the chat at this point. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, we encourage you to visit those. And with that, I would like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. We really enjoyed hearing from you all and learning more about your experiences. To everyone planning on applying to the certificate program, our team looks forward to receiving your application by April 28th. Thank you all for tuning in today and take care.